I am resident of Colwood for YouTube. Jules Sands. I'm joined by my buddy Patrick McCray, my buddy Alan Gallant, my buddy Gordon Dymowski. We are here to review the 1933 Marx Brothers movie Duck Soup, which is a funny comedy musical. Um, Guys, when did you first watch this movie?
I first saw it when I was about 7 or 8 years old because it was New Year's Day, and it was literally I'd watch Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, and that would go off at 12:05, and then this came on at like 12, 10 minutes after midnight, and I have to say I was hooked, not just on this movie, but it's on the Marx Brothers, on this comedy. Um, and I think it's one of the it's maybe the it's the best comedy ever made, the best anti-war comedy ever made, the best Marx Brothers movie ever made. And I know some of you are going to go, "Oh no, that's A Night at the Opera," because they were able to rehearse their stuff before that. I think no, no. If you do not think Duck Soup is the best Marx Brothers movie of all time, you hate Puppies and Democracy. I do not want to talk to you. And if you don't like it, you can meet me at the Waffle House parking lot, and we'll have words.
Well,
So
yeah. I mean, it's they would also just have poor taste if they
right
said
too.
that.
Right.
Yeah. I think comedy's a very difficult thing to quantify, but I know this: if you think Night of the Opera is funnier or a better movie than Duck Soup, you're doing it wrong. You're trying to quantify humor incorrectly. I can't tell you what the correct way is, but it ain't working if you come to that conclusion. It's a fantastic film. It hits on all levels, Gordon. You're right. Um, it
It wastes absolutely no time either.
it does
Wastes nothing.
it
There's
doesn't.
no fat in this movie.
It's economical, and and it's fine as you said. It's fine as a first Marx Brothers movie. You don't need coconuts and animal crackers to kind of help you understand a world where somehow they just walk through it kind of unchecked. It certainly is their epic. They can't. The only way they could have gone farther is if they had taken over heaven and hell in the next one. Because seriously, you go from a hotel to the owner of the hotel's home to a university, and where do you go to from there? My country. Yeah.
Well, I mean, according to Dark Shadows, hell is nothing more than the desk in a hotel anyway. So it's like no problem, right? It's one step
Well,
up.
Groucho ends up playing God in Skidoo.
It's true. His last film role, poor guy. Uh, he was fine. I mean, he operates in his own world anyway. But so he was fine in that movie actually. It's everybody else that was completely lost. Um, but yeah, this is a fabulous movie. I mean, I think I mentioned before that I think the first movie I ever saw of theirs was Horse Feathers, but this was soon to follow because these movies ended up in a cycle of local television when I was fairly young, and there were these, and then there were the later at night there were the Universal horror films. There was the Abbott and Costello stuff, and it was all in some kind of a portfolio that one or two of the local television
Well,
stations
it
had.
was in those. It was in with those Ingmar Bergman two reelers,
Mm,
the comedy ones he did.
it's,
Yeah, yeah, because nobody knows how to get a laugh like Ingmar Bergman.
He does.
it's Hey,
He
he was the
does.
one that coined the phrase "liberal tears." I think. Yeah, that was him.
Yeah, well, I think too. What helped
Or just
is that
tears.
I think what helped was that not only did they was there a Marx Brothers revival in the early '70s,
Oh
but
yeah.
there started to become kind of like a nostalgia revival in the early '70s
Oh
because
yeah.
it was you had the pre-boomers like, oh, there's all this hippie war protest, so they
Sure.
started looking back on the movies of the '30s and '40s because you had this kind of little then it was like the silent and the kind of pre-code stuff.
It also it got back into everyman popularity too. It wasn't, because it was on television all the time instead of just in the, a lot of that stuff was still going around the art houses and blah 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 because people, that was cool. But once it became, sort of more proletariat oriented, it became sort of nationwide and worldwide in some cases. This kind of stuff.
So I wonder if there's a 40-year sort of cycle of comedy, because I wonder what was made 40 years ago. Well, the 80s stuff.
Yeah, but some of it also, the nostalgia is the phases sometimes go generationally. Like, and also later in the 70s, you had the 50s nostalgia.
Sure.
Which is only 20 plus years, maybe 25 years.
Nostalgia magazines on the level of Starlog.
Oh yeah,
back then for a while, and the Waltons didn't hurt.
No, that was definitely 30s and 40s nostalgia, big time, Depression era stuff, and that was for the generation of my parents, really.
Also, this little show called 30s. Little House on the Prairie didn't hurt either.
Yeah,
well, that was nostalgia for dead people.
That's right.
Oh my God.
No, but
there was nobody left from that era by the time that show went on the air. I don't think.
I think you did. But I think with the Marx Brothers and with especially their Paramount stuff, I think because it was, I think part of it was most of those films are super short. I think only the Coconuts and Animal Crackers are over 70 minutes.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And I think it also helped that they were relatively family friendly.
The double entendres would go right over the head of the kids. It wouldn't be anything that would offend anybody.
Yeah. The first time I heard about the Marx Brothers was from my grandfather, my mom's dad, and he had introduced me to the Three Stooges. They would air Sunday mornings on AMC, like real early, like 5:30, 6 o'clock. And he's like, have you ever seen the Marx Brothers movies? I'm like, no, Grandpap, I haven't. And again, I was like 12, 13 years old. So he's like, yeah, those guys are nuts too. I'm like, okay. And he's right. I mean, this movie, it's funny, when I watched this for the first time today, it made me think of a movie we reviewed, Can't Stop the Music, because it's like, if Can't Stop the Music would have had this much comedy in it, it'd have been hilarious.
Oh yeah.
It might have extended the disco era by a decade.
But they really, because the thing about comedy and music, it's all about timing too. And man, they really nailed their beats with the comedy and the music here.
Oh, the definition. They defined it.
Yeah. Their discipline was that they had, decades of experience from vaudeville. And they got kicked out of vaudeville because they wanted too much money, so they went to Broadway. I mean, that's how good they were. And so they had many years before they even got really seriously involved in film. They had 20 years on the circuit and on the stage. So also, one thing it's brought up at some point usually when you're talking about the Marx Brothers is it's the New York Jewish experience in entertainment.
Yeah.
Their sense of humor, their sense of currentness in terms of universal human behavior, their sense of absurdity in within the structure of slapstick. It's very much that experience.
And two other things: their sense of combat, and a sense of need of viciousness to go after WASP culture. Because these are all attacks on WASP culture.
It's also attacks on the it's deflating a lot of the authority figures and so on. Yeah.
So you have this you have this dominant culture that
Mhm.
is pretty damn anti-Semitic, and that they are they highly observant gentlemen who are on the business end of all of that,
Yes.
and eventually they're I mean nothing I'm sure phrases like the goyim are ones that they would use all the time to describe the enemies in these movies.
Yes.
And they're right. I mean, the only thing that kind of throws it off a little bit is that you have, and this is again a political attack, is you have an Italian named bad guy Trentino,
Yes.
but there's very little love lost in the tenements, between a lot of those groups anyway.
That's correct. There was a lot of animosity between various ethnic groups. Anyway, outside of the WASP sort of authority
Mhm.
that pushed them into the tenements to begin with,
Yeah.
which is an irony, but it was a reality. Absolutely was.
Well, and there's another political reality on that, and that has to do with what Europe, I mean, because they're all first generation largely, uh, what Europe had gone through, either right before they were born or as they were born, or
Hmm.
shortly thereafter, was World War One, and the memory of World War One, and hearing about relatives, pulled in World War One, and what a stupid war that was,
Well,
Hmm.
I'm
Well,
not
also the
a very
Russian
joyous war.
pogroms of 20 or 30 years before World War One.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because most of the Marx Brothers were born, I think, Zeppo,
1890s.
yeah, 1890s. So they probably wouldn't have had. Um, I'm not. Maybe I think Chico might have tried to sign up, but was not was rejected from the army. So they
Yeah.
probably would have been, for them, being in vaudeville was a way to avoid dealing with the war because they
War.
didn't
They were
necessarily.
also the breadwinners for their respective families and for their mother too. So
Mhm.
Mama kind of organized everything and sort of was their de facto agent for many years.
When
But
did Minnie
they
die?
were the money makers.
When
Yeah.
did Minnie Marx die?
I
God,
think in the 1950s.
I think that
Wow.
might be
So
true.
she got to see them be successes in
Oh,
Hollywood.
absolutely, she did.
Okay.
Yes, yes. She on all the circuits. She actually died in 1929, which
Ooh,
meant she saw their first movie.
Humorous.
But they were enormously successful in vaudeville and on Broadway before she passed away.
Mhm. Yep, September 13th. Yeah.
Yeah,
The same year the moon disaster happened in 1999.
and she was a true immigrant. She came over from Germany to New York City.
So it could
So
not have been nice, you know, for many hearing about the war
mm,
and for her thinking of relatives who were, stuck back there
sure,
in the
as
midst of all that.
yeah. I mean, that was the immigrant experience for a lot of different people, coming from hardship from the old country. That's what brought them here.
Because
Uh,
I think about World War One. I think about what a mess it was, and that it was,
mm.
a bunch of goyish rich people who'd made agreements with one another that, well, if you attack this
They
person,
were
we'll
all
attack.
related too. It was real. I mean, it was like an
And
incest
yeah,
war.
and so
Uh,
and so you have all the people who get sucked into fighting this thing, by the very people who are oppressing them anyway. It's like, oh, gee,
yes.
thanks. Just when I thought it was getting better, now
Yeah.
this. What else can we do for you?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Really.
Just die.
well, you also have to keep in mind that around this time the movie was made, there were starting to, you had what was happening in Germany, and so it was,
33. It was when Hitler was first in power as chancellor. Yeah.
and it's, at the time the U.S. was in a very isolationist pose where it's like we do not want to go anywhere, and I think this was a way to, um, it was less about let's stay out of a war and basically say, hey, look at these bozos, look
Yeah.
at what happens if you you know
But there was also a very real threat on this side of the ocean too, because there was the American Nazi Party, the Bund,
Mhm.
which was stirring up trouble on this side of the Atlantic, unfortunately, and people like Lucky Lindy, who were in support of that.
That guy on the wrong side on so many things.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and for
Unbelievable.
and for those of you watching, if you'd like to read more about it, Those Angry Days by Lynn Olson.
Yeah, there's some really good biographical information and historical information about that era too. It's not hard to find. It's especially now. People are still writing about it. So, yeah, this was a definite. These Marx Brothers, many, their parents, all came out of this kind of hardship, this kind of ethnic persecution. The parents and grandparents were victims of pogroms. They were first generation immigrants. So there was a lot to overcome. Street kids. They were not wealthy people. They were street kids, but their mother was a person who was involved with vaudeville and entertainment and all that stuff, and saw that in their kids. And they learned from some of the masters too. Gallagher and Sheen. One of them was their uncle, Sheen. I guess.
Al Sheen.
Yeah, Al Sheen. Those guys were total pros. They were recording artists back in the 20s and even into the 30s. The teens through the early 30s, they were recording artists. I had my great grandmother had a copy of their Gallagher and Sheen theme song that they used to sing, so that was kind of cool.
Well, it caused the anti-German stuff for World War One, don't you? It was the sinking of Lusitania.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what brought it to bear, because the English-speaking world had been affronted by that whole
thing. So,
yep.
Craziness. But we also know for World War II there was the sneak attack on Pearl Harbor by the Japanese, December 7th, 1941, Sunday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was, yeah.
Crazy.
Fun, huh? Sunday morning, get out of church, bombs are falling.
Right. There are people who get caught up on that question too, because there'll be history teachers. What day was Pearl Harbor? And everybody will like December 7th. No, what day of the week?
Right, because it has context. It absolutely has context.
Absolutely.
But the other milieu that the Marx Brothers came into is they weren't that far removed from the isms of theater. The various sort of art-generated isms that included absurdism and that sort of thing, symbolism, a variety of things that they would have been exposed to as theater people. Definitely would have been living in New York. There was a lot of it going on there. There was going on in Europe as well, but it found its way to New York for sure. Yeah. So there was a real sort of pastiche of things that goes into their approach to humor and comedy, and how they, sort of created from that experience.
Yeah, for the production here, the Marx Brothers' previous film, Horse Feathers, had been Paramount's highest-grossing film of 1932. Encouraged by this success, the studio suggested on August 2nd, 1932, that they rush out a follow-up. Already at this early stage, the story, previously entitled Lala, was set in a mythical kingdom. On August 11th, 1932, the Los Angeles Times reported that production would commence in 5 weeks with the famed Ernest
Lubitsch.
Yeah. Sorry, that's his name. Directing.
Was this the first or the second Los Angeles production? I can't remember if Horse Feathers, I think, was in L.A. too. The first two were in, I think, New York, New Jersey.
Yes.
because they were doing shows at night,
Yeah.
Hmm.
so they
Yeah.
were on Broadway.
And there's I've been rereading another book about the movie called Hail Hail Euphoria by Roy Blount Jr. And this movie was actually kind of um it was their last picture for Paramount, and there was like a consistent
MGM.
back and forth
Yeah.
because they wanted out of their contract, and I think they even were able to leave their contract and start exploring forming their own company when Paramount said no, we really need this movie. And so, and the great thing about this movie is for one that's basically a contractual obligation movie, you don't feel it. You
No,
don't
it's
get it.
brilliant. It's brilliant. They had so much material, at their fingertips, and they collaborated with some pretty good writers over the years too. So
Mhm.
to sort of structure things. But yeah, no, it does not feel like they're under the gun, or like you see with some films that are like, oh, that's the end of his contract. I see. Okay, walking through that, they don't do that at all. They have I think they have pride in their work at this point. They haven't gotten tired yet. They haven't run. After a few more of these films, they get tired and don't want to do as many of them. But I mean, they did some pretty good work for MGM too. So.
Yeah. Well, I think the MGM films were the reason those declined was they were brought in under Irving Thalberg, who said, okay, first is we want to make sure that the movies are structured well. So it's not
Mhm.
just joke, but
Yeah.
you time it, you pause it, you give them solid stories. And then he died before the production of Day at the
Yeah, he was
Races.
like only 35 years old or something. He died
Right.
unexpectedly. So yeah.
And then they were under Louis B. Mayer, who did not care for them at all. So it
He
was
didn't
like
care for anybody. Anybody that made money. He didn't like that. They were making money.
so that as their films, we can argue the relative merit of each film, but MGM there is a slow decline, and then
Mhm.
there were when that ended, is usually they did movies because Chico needed money.
Yes, the last several films in particular. Yeah, that was like one of them was supposed to be a solo project, I think, and then the studio said, no, we won't do it unless you all do it. So they ended up
I think that might have been Room Service.
maybe. Yeah, yeah, that was one of the Chico needs money films for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, it. But this film, I think Chico was in the flush. He seemed to be having a good time. So. I love this film. One of the things about this film that's amazing is the economy of exposition.
Yeah.
There's no need for exposition. They just throw the audience into a situation, and by this time, of course, they're all recognizable as the comedians that they are. So everybody knows they're the Marx Brothers, aside from whatever characters they're going to play, and that's always going to be the case. But the situation just unfolds. It's not like, okay, now we're going to have this happen, and now you're going to see this, and now it just unfolds.
Mhm.
Oh, these two guys. Oh, they're not together. Oh, they're playing separate. They're at odds with one another, sort of.
Mhm.
These two spies, and then this guy over here, who's kind of the straight guy, Zeppo, and then you've got His Excellency, which is Groucho, and they're all. I mean, obviously they all come together, but they're at cross purposes, sort of. So it's very interesting, but it's very acceptable. It happens really quick, and you're in it, and there you go. And no wasting of any time. Let's get to the situation gags and some of the the plot.
How important is choreography in comedies like the Marx Brothers? Yeah.
It's physical comedy. It's very important.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
important.
And it also helped that the director on this film, Leo McCray, had an experience with silence, because there's a couple of really good silent. There's the one with the peanut vendor,
Mhm.
The-
Yeah,
um,
it's more like
you see,
pantomime. Yeah.
and then there's the mirror scene, and I think, especially with silent film, you can't really you have to depend on the visuals, and I think being able to just let the brothers do what they need to do, um, but also being able to step back, because if you looking at this film, it's there's very little, the only filler would be like the beginning credits, if even that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no
It's
real.
everything moves. It really, and well. Um, the the thing that I like about this film too is you've already seen it in previous films. Some of the gags, the bits that they do, although they're usually variations on a theme because they're in different contexts or whatever. But the thing with the leg, that's a shtick that they do a lot. It's funny. It's always funny as long as the actors involved are you know, not trying to anticipate what's happening and it just happens. The mirror gag, that was something they developed and had, and it was variations on a theme. They kept that, and Harpo did it during I Love Lucy, for God's sakes, years later, like 20 years later, did that whole mirror gag. But that was something that they had developed that they wanted to use because they were really good at it. So.
Mhm.
It's nonstop, just funny. I mean, they're just hilarious too. That's the thing. Like when they're doing, even when they're like doing the music, it's funny. It's like, but you get into the rhythm of it too. That's what's great about this too. They were really smart. That's what I'll say. Really, really smart.
They were.
So
One of the things that I like is also the way that they destroy the stuffy conventions all around them. Like
Mhm.
every time the ambassador tries to, Margaret Dumont gets him less hot under the car, and he says, "Okay, we'll avoid war by doing this or whatever," and immediately Groucho flouts it. He finds a way out of it. He finds a way to reinsult. And it's usually through his own thoughts, like, "Oh my God, if this happens, then that's going to happen. How dare he?" And it's just this mental chaos. But it's flouting convention, is what it's doing. It's just destroying, the stuffed shirt expectations of respect from people who don't deserve it. The guys that he wants to take over this country, and so why should anybody not slap him upside the face for pretending that he's anything else but a guy who wants to take over the other country?
yeah, yeah, man, that's just so good about it too. It's like, my God.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then they do the thing where they're trying to steal the war plans, and there are three Grouchos. That's amazing as well. And of course, Margaret Dumont, whether she got the joke or not, was again incredibly present. So her reactions would be perfect with everything.
Yeah.
Just crazy stuff. That's sort of that's a farcical interpretation of intrigue, which of course that's how wars get started: intrigue, secrets, ambition, all this stuff. And it's just they grab a hold of all of it and pluck the short hairs out of it. So.
Yeah.
I
give
like
it.
Margaret Dumont. I like Margaret Dumont.
Speaking of short hairs,
Jumping into there, yeah.
she's brilliant, of course, as always. She's in this movie. She's youngish in her, much more than some of the later movies that she's in, where she's much more staid and dowager like.
She's a credible love object for Groucho, sort of.
Yes, sort of. Or at least a love object for his ambition or his lust for money or whatever,
Yeah, I can see you bending over a hot stove, but I can't see the stove.
That's right. Where's your purse?
I give this a 10, guys. What do you give it?
Oh, it's a 25. I'm sorry.
It's a 500.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I'm not going to argue with that.
There you go.
It is brilliant. It's a classic. Every generation has rediscovered these movies, and this is one of them, of course.
I hope. I'm waiting for this one.
Well, part of every generation discovers them.
Well, they need to.
Yeah.
This isn't just a movie; it's a survival tool.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree because it teaches people about how satire works against the ills of society and the bad people that might be running the show for a while and all of this sort of thing.
Yeah. And I think it would appeal to this generation because it's like a series of TikTok videos in a row.
Well, I think at different stages of maturity, different things will appeal.
Yeah. I think too, like, it depends on, like, have you sat and watched, like, certain things? Like, for example, I was lucky enough to have grandparents that introduced me to the Three Stooges. I had and in a lot of ways too, growing up watching pro wrestling can just be downright silly sometimes.
Well, it's supposed to be sometimes.
I mean,
Yeah, see, I didn't have that. I had a divorced mom who was like, okay, yeah, you can stay up. I'm heading to bed. Go brew yourself some coffee. There's a pack of smokes on the kitchen table at 7 years
Go
old.
for it. That's right.
And so,
a bottle of vodka is off limits, and until Friday, right?
Yeah, don't drink the whiskey unless you have a toothache.
Right.
Because that's how I learned that. That's how when I was a baby, and I would have like teething issues. My mom would take a little bit of whiskey and like dip her finger in it and rub it on my gum, which may explain a lot. But
it was also a pretty common thing, for many, many years. My parents, however, decided to go one step further. They got a prescription for paregoric, which is opium. And that's what they rubbed on my teeth. And they also gave me an eyedropper full of it for stomach aches and things like that. Worked like a charm, but probably presaged my addictive personality by a few years.
Oh my gosh. What's some of you guys' favorite scenes?
do we have to choose just one?
No. God, no.
It's the whole damn movie as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, me too.
Good. It's too good. I mean, the first thing that popped into my mind was the Three Grouchos thing. I mean, that's funny as heck, but there's so much other stuff.
Yeah, like if I had to choose one, it's the lemonade scene where they're dealing with the peanut vendor and he's serving lemonade and Harpo has his pants.
It goes into the lemon. Yes. And that's the first glimmer you get that the guy's going to give up because he just can't, hold up that kind of competitive grudge match forever.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
and we also see the fabulous Harpo's jacket full of endless stuff. Which that's another one of the gags that you see many, many times. He loves to steal silverware. That's one of the things that Harpo does. The one thing that's not in this movie, though, he doesn't play the harp.
Well, he does a little bit with the piano at one point, but
yes, he plucks the piano. That's true, but he doesn't actually sit down and play the harp like he does in several.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a scene filmed like that, but they're like, screw it, let's
go with the piano, yeah, right, because it's funny.
Did Looney Tunes copy that from the Marx Brothers?
Oh, I bet they did.
They probably did.
Well, they made cartoon versions of the Marx Brothers and all the other Hollywood stars at various times, which were part of the Merry Melodies, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know Edward G. Robinson was. He was in on that.
Yeah. Clark Gable. Humphrey Bogart. Yeah, a bunch of them were actually sort of lampooned and and
Uh,
cartoons.
is there anything? What do you guys? Well, I can't cover anything tomorrow. Tomorrow's my wife's birthday.
It's cool.
Is there anything you guys want to cover Monday? Because I have 2 ideas, but is there anything you guys want to cover Monday?
I don't have anything specific.
Okay. My first suggestion is episode 2, or sorry, season 2, episode 18 of MacGyver. It's entitled Partners, which I think you guys will. I know Gordon will enjoy. We'll both enjoy it. It's the debut of Murdoch,
Okay.
which is a really fun character. Or I was gonna suggest, instead of a comedy, I was gonna suggest Full Metal Jacket if you guys wanted to watch that. What do you guys? You guys could pick. And
let's go ahead and in case we don't get Patrick back, why don't you go ahead and put that up on a message?
Yeah.
We can kind of make a decision.
Okay, yeah. I'll message you guys as soon as I get off of here.
Cool.
But yeah, this has been a fun discussion. We did a Night of the Opera, didn't we? Too?
What's that?
We did do a Night of the Opera, didn't we?
I don't think we did.
Okay,
I don't recall, but it could have been done before I was.
okay. I don't think we. I'm not sure. I'm getting
That would be a good one.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
it's a good one to do.
Yeah, Demon Rum has ruined my brain. So
Oh my gosh.
Demon Run ruined my brain 30-something years ago, even after I quit. But that's the way that goes.
I'm just getting old.
plus Mad Cow. So
The OnlyFans has gotten the better of me. I apologize.
We had a theater called Mad Cow Theater down here in Orlando for years. It's defunct now.
Link to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook about is going to be in the description box. Link to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page and website is going to be in the description box. Link to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel. Cullen's Port After Dark is going to be in the description box. You guys have a safe night and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You as well, gentlemen.
good night,
Pleasure
all.
as always.
Bye, guys.
Bye, all.